Hello, everyone. This is going to be a quick lecture on our introduction to the Gilded Age. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get right to it. So the Gilded Age is a period that extends right after the end of Reconstruction. The Gilded Age is marked with a boom of economic growth in the country, but there's also a massive downside to that growth. So in the United States history, the Gilded Age is a period that spans from the 1870s to 1900, when President Theodore Roosevelt becomes, obviously, the President of the United States. Samuel Longhorn Clemens, better known by his pen name as Mark Twain, was an American author and humorist, and he is the one that termed the Gilded Age in 1873 in his book or collection of books called The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today, which it's a satire, is what he believed to be an era of serious social problems disguised by a thin gold lining, which is hence why he calls it the Gilded Age. It looks good on the surface, but once you get past the surface, it's horrible. So the Gilded Age was an era of tremendous growth, especially in the North and in the West. The United States also saw a major population shift as cities grew exponentially. But the South remained economically devastated because of the Civil War and Reconstruction. Its economy became increasingly tied to cotton and tobacco production, which suffered low prices in this day and age. Between 1869 and 1899, the population of the United States was nearly tripled, with much of this growth directly attributed to the huge number of immigrants who flocked to the U.S. During this same time period, farm production in the U.S. doubled. And during the Gilded Age, the United States underwent a second industrial revolution, and the value of manufacturing grew sixfold. The Gilded Age was also an era of enormous wealth and dire poverty. So there's not a middle ground. You're either one or you're the other. The rise of industry makes some individuals incredibly wealthy, and at the same time makes some poor. But the average annual income for most American families was $380, well below the poverty line. Domestic servants, a necessity in the middle class and wealthy households, cooked, waited on tables, washed the dishes, cleaned, and were responsible for laundry, ironing, mending, and childcare. The hours were long, and on an average 11 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a domestic servant was an on-call 24 hours a day job. Domestic servants traditionally got 1 or 2 afternoons a week off, but they were expected to have accomplished most of the daily chores, which meant working in at least 7 hours before leaving. Wages, which was an average of $3.17 per week, included room and board in the house. The average factory worker worked 6.5 days a week. Male workers were paid 18 cents an hour. Female workers made less at 11 cents per hour. The average annual income for a farm family in the later half of the 19th century was $531. So as you can see, this wasn't the day and age that you would want to live in. By contrast, in 1883, Alva Vanderbilt spent $1 million on a costume ball for the elite of New York City society. So here's the contrast, right? Herbert Spencer was the first major prophet of social Darwinism, and his ideas were used as a justification for the vast disparities in American society. Spencer drew directly from Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, which viewed evolution as a divine will, divine providence. Though Darwinism's theory applied only to biological phenomenon, Herbert Spencer applied evolutionary theory to the social world, thus the invention of social Darwinism. Spencer argued that all human society and institutions pass through the process of a natural selection, which resulted in the survival of the fittest of people. Society naturally evolves for the better. The government should not interfere in this natural process with any form of regulation or social welfare, kind of like a laissez-faire, which basically means just let things be, let things alone, let it happen. Such interventions only helped the unfit to survive and implied progress. Business and corporations are the true engines of social progress. Fabulously wealthy individuals dominated the economic life of the Gilded Age, and those who hated them called the robber barons. Those who admired them called them the captains of industry. So men like Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, J.P. Morgan, and John D. Rockefeller could fall into either of these categories. Rockefeller was a ruthless businessman who crushed competitors and put thousands out of work. Realizing how loathed he had become, he retired from business and gave much of his fortune away. Carnegie, the richest man in America at the time, believed that wealthy people had an obligation to give away their money. He built thousands of libraries across the country and was also a party to one of the most brutal labor disputes in U.S. history. So that's our introduction to the Gilded Age. Our next lecture is going to cover child labor. Stop sharing. Hope that you enjoyed this lecture, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.